All right. Well, one of the top items on agenda for Prime Minister Modi's three-day visit to Indonesia has been the Sabang Port, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi saying, and I quote, "As two close maritime nations, we have also decided to deepen our cooperation in the blue economy, port development and maritime trade." As part of deepening bilateral cooperation, India and Indonesia are expected to jointly develop the Sabang Port, located near the Strait of Malacca and about 100 miles from India's Great Nicobar project, with Sabang Port also working to complement the planned transshipment hub. The project is expected to improve maritime connectivity and reinforce strategic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Greater collaboration at Sabang could strengthen connectivity, trade and security coordination. Prime Minister Modi underlined this growing cooperation, highlighting the 2018 Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and saying that the collaboration is reaching new heights, with active cooperation across key sectors including development, security, technology, culture and of course education. Let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Commander Bhushan Diwan, former Indian Navy officer. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, also joins us. Dr. Ajay Dua, senior economist, is with us on the program as well. And last but by no means the least, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, defense and geopolitical expert. General Dwivedi, I'll begin with you. Well, India has always said that maritime security and trade with our partners in Southeast Asia, with the ASEAN nations as well, is something that has to go hand in hand. And this is not just from the prism of trade alone or economy alone. This is also from a larger prism and a hegemony which has been created by China, sir.
Absolutely, Vineet. Firstly, thanks for having me on your show. Well, today, if we look at the globe, I think the maritime trade or the sea lines of communication have stood out strategically a very important component of any nation's security or any nation's development. And we recently saw as to what exactly the Strait of Hormuz and the implications. So therefore, we need India basically is a maritime nation, and so is Indonesia. So, and ironically, as neighbors, distance is hardly about 100 miles, as you rightly said. So therefore, Indonesia and India have a great deal to cooperate in as far as maritime, development or maritime issues are concerned. And second very important issue is the Strait of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca is one of the very, very important choke point as far as the global trade or the global sea lines of communications are concerned. And about 1 lakh and about 2,500 ships transit through the Strait of Malacca. And of course, not only looking at the bilateral relations, there is the China factor. China is there in big way in Indonesia. In fact, I had just visited Indonesia this year. And the BRI project, which is connecting the railway line in Indonesia, and also the other projects. So in nutshell, I think 2-3 issues are very important. As far as the India-Indonesia trade is concerned, our maritime interests are concerned, I think Greater Nicobar and Sabang are two very close terminals which have a lot of give and take and lot of interdependence. Second point is that we want to develop Andaman Nicobar as a major transit hub and also reduce our dependence on Colombo and also on Singapore. So to that extent, this is very important. And thirdly, Sabang by itself, I think Indonesian government have been very, very emphatic that it should come up as a major ecosystem, as a major hub for tourism and such like issues. So I think that two nations today have got together. This idea is not new. It was actually cracked up in 2018, but not much progress was made. I think this is the time when Prime Minister Modi is there. It will get the right impetus and it will serve our strategic security and our economic interest. Vineet.
Right. Let me also open Mr. Dua into this conversation. Mr. Dua, India obviously wants to expand its horizon when it comes to trade. We've witnessed several challenges and conflicts in the recent past. In tune with that, how would you rate the Prime Minister's outreach to a country like Indonesia, which is also extremely excited to engage us as an export partner when it comes to export and import needs?
Thank you, Vineet. I think we have responded extremely well to the warmth shown by Indonesia. And if you would recall, their president was the chief guest at last year's Republic Day. And yesterday, he went out of the way to receive the Indian Prime Minister at the airport. Yeah, he's been awarded the highest medal of that country. He's addressed the Parliament of Indonesia. All the proper protocol things have been done, responded, as I said, very well. Having said that, it is because India, for one, has never had a difference with Indonesia. For long, the Panchsheel concept, when the President Sukarno was the head there, ever since, and Pandit Nehru here, have got along rather well with the Indonesian heads, whosoever has come there. We have also been together in the international fora, have taken joint stands on whole lot of issues, including the United Nations, WTO, and elsewhere. I would say that Prime Minister has done extremely well to have spent 2 nights there and come up with a 10-point statement on 10 points of agreement, which have just been released this evening. As of now, the trade with Indonesia is $30 billion a year, of which Indonesians have the balance of trade in their favor, largely because we import a lot of thermal coal from there, not hard coke, which comes from other countries as well, and much more from others. We import a lot of palm oil from there. These two have been our major stays vis-a-vis Indonesia, and going forward, the two heads of government have agreed that we'll take it up to $50 billion by 2030. That means in 4 years' time, and a whole lot of things have been spelled out, including critical minerals, which is something the need of the hour. That's been highlighted. What has been highlighted, of course, is the Sabang Port, which General Dwivedi talked about elaborately. It is something which has been on the cards for 7 or 8 years. Now that we have taken our Great Nicobar project forward, I think we need to make sure that at ASE, a place called ACEH, I don't know, Ambassador Kapoor will know how it's pronounced properly, Ake or ASE. ASE. And Ake, right. And then jointly India should make an offer, whether it's Indian government or Indian private people, the way Nicobar Islands, the Great Nicobar project is to be developed. Similarly, we could consider developing that Ake project. The two together must have tremendous potential. 106,000 ships passed through the Strait of Malacca last year. And a large portion of that could be now through, if we have transshipment arrangements here, rather than go through on the route of the Strait of Malacca, you would find ships passing through this route. And of course, for India, it will be a great boon. You don't have to send your ships to the expensive but a highly efficient Singapore port or to Colombo, and instead the transshipment could be taking place right on the Indian soil. But the two nations must work together, and we must make sure then the two facilities do not start competing with one another for transshipment, Aceh on one side and Great Nicobar. And the way forward is, I think Indonesia looks forward to us. We should agree that it will be jointly run. We would have an involvement of one another in its usage. So these are the kind of things I would like to emphasize in terms of commerce and trade.
All right, absolutely. Commander Diwan, India has always had this important policy of looking east, but it also understands that there is this huge void and there is this huge opportunity when it comes to, the bullish behavior that China has displayed over the past few years, ever since, it started doing well in terms of its economy. Does India also have to take this route in order to make sure that our economy can only be bolstered up, through these strategic tie-ups, especially related to defense equipment?
Thank you, Vineet. We all know that India and Indonesia have a long running history of similar culture, Hindu religion. If you see, like India Gate, we have India Gate or Gateway of India in Bombay. On the main square, as a vice president of TCS, I was 2 years in Jakarta. On the main Jalan Sudirman, you have 8 feet long, 12 feet long statue of Krishna, Arjuna, and 8 horses chariot. This is Indonesia, the largest Muslim population, about 23 crores, 230 million, and we are there. So they have natural affinity. The language there, Swami means husband, Istri. Half the people, their names are Indians, Vishnu, though he's a Christian or is Muslim. The point I'm making is huge potential of collaboration is untapped in full Eastern Asia, Southeastern Asia. In ASEAN is a group in which China is dominating sadly, and Indonesia is the largest ASEAN country today. Now, Sabang, the beautiful thing about Sabang is I can develop my Great Nicobar project at 81,000 crores. But if I have a partner 100 nautical miles away, about 160 kilometers away from me, and that is coming up as logistic hub, that is coming up as bunkering hub. Bunkering means fueling of our merchant vessels. That is coming up as ecotourism, sea tourism. We have a collaboration. We are not one, we are two of us. So Sabang is not trying to compete with our transshipment port project. Their depth is not so much. They require much more dredging and so on, which Great Nicobar transshipment hub will not have. But this complementarity really strengthens our presence, marine ecosystem, look east policy. And we have been saying it, but this is one of the beginning of this in a big time. Secondly, as you rightly mentioned, BrahMos, they are the next immediate customer for BrahMos for a long time. Our Philippines has got them delivered. Astra again, the anti-air missile. And they're also looking at shipbuilding, drones, AI, and defense industry production. And I think there's a huge scope which needs to really be kicked in very fast. And it's not a one day late we have done this. And if China has to be contained, our footprint has to be all over. Wherever we are present, we are seen, we are there, we can checkmate. Else, if we are not there, anybody will take us for granted, which China has been doing. By the way, I must tell you, China has been very clever. The Malacca conundrum dilemma that China faces. They're coming up with new routes to Thailand. They're coming up with, the rail and 90 kilometers rail link to the rail and road link from this thing through Thailand. So they're also keeping up their, Indonesia is a very large trading partner with China. And in Indonesia, people, they like we say in English, we say good boy. So we say good, then boy. But in Indonesia is called orang pintar. Orang means man. Pintar means intelligent. Indians are known as orang pintar. Intelligent people. This is a Dutch approach because they were dominated by Dutch. So there's a huge collaboration, and I even hear that, even Sukarno Putri, she wanted to convert back to Hinduism. Bali still remains the hub of Hinduism. If you go and see Hinduism over there, you can't see I believe, I've been there 2-3 times, but I didn't see this, people keeping their doors open, processions daily, worship. Huge potential, which unfortunately, I visited Malaysia a number of times also, and this huge potential. Chinese are really, coal mine. I was in this Adani port, our thermal coal. You stock the coal, thermal coal, as Mr. Dua mentioned. If you leave it outside, it just catches fire. It starts smoking. The Adani port, where I was, you have to keep spraying water on that. So again, a lot of rich minerals they have. And mines, again, they have all kind of ores. 3 time zones. We think Indonesia is a small country. The 23 crore people, 3 time zones up to Bali. So the point is a huge, huge potential. We can go forward big time. And imagine, I mean, today also the palm oil, and of course their oil, they have oil also, crude oil, but not so good variety. So there is this basic thing about Sabang and defense cooperation. I can see in over 100 nautical miles, you have a cruise ecosystem and chaining of crews happening in Sabang and transshipment happening in Great Nicobar. This synergy is the crux of the matter, spreading our footprint with cooperation. And China will not interfere in this, and this is the way to make our presence felt and make our economy grow.
Let me also bring in Ambassador Kapoor into this conversation. Ambassador Kapoor, you've heard everybody on the panel. What is your takeaway from this important strategic alliance that the Prime Minister has worked very hard to forge?
Thank you, Vineet. I think I will just continue with what the distinguished panelists have mentioned. India and Indonesia have traditional relations, civilizational relations for thousands of years. One of their most important traditional texts, incidentally, is the Ramayana. And they continue to have daily performances of the Ramayana in Yogyakarta. And those are, incidentally, I want to admit it and confess that I've been there, I've seen it, and those are much better than what we do in India. The only places which are comparable in Mandi House, for example, but most of India does not compare with the Ramayana which is performed there.
And just 3 hours.
So that sort of traditions they have. And when they finish the Ramayana performance, when they introduce the artists and the director and everybody, they are mostly almost all Muslim names. But as Commander had also mentioned, in Washington, D.C., where I live, the Indian embassy has Mahatma Gandhi. Across the road on the left is the Indonesian embassy. And what do we have there? Goddess Saraswati. Right bang in D.C., in the center of D.C., on Massachusetts Avenue, huge statue of Saraswati in front of a Muslim Indonesian embassy. If I take an Indonesian currency note, what do I find? Ganesha. If I talk about their airline, what is it? Garuda airline. What do I see in the currency notes? Ganesha. And in the airlines, Garuda. So everywhere there are linkages. Bali, everybody knows about. So what is happening now is that while we have had phenomenal soft power links with Indonesia for thousands of years, including in Bali, including in their Buddhist sites. But today, as we see it, India is moving from soft power to smart power. What does that mean? Soft power plus hard power, military power. So if you have to do that, then you need discussions on BrahMos, you need discussions on Quad-like structures involving Indonesia. You also need geopolitical linkages, very strong port linkages, like in Sabang and Great Nicobar, so that there is phenomenal complementarity, so that jointly we can manage, we can look after, we can look at what is happening in the transshipment area with over 1 lakh ships moving, phenomenal amount of tourist potential which India has not exploited at all, which India is just starting to exploit, cruises, etc., etc. So all that can happen in a very big way, but also that there is complementarity between the two sides. Now, one more example I want to give you, Vinny. India launched on the gift city in near Ahmedabad, which was a very brilliant initiative because the current Prime Minister, as Chief Minister of Gujarat, asked the question that what do countries and city-states like Singapore or even Dubai or even London have, which India cannot replicate. So this gift city was created as a construct which is on Gujarat soil but has autonomy. So it can operate as if it is not inside Indian territory. It has rules and laws for banking, for example, which are more international. And banks, if they open there, have a different set of rules, so they can expand their operations in India through Gift City, so that whatever was being done at the other financial centers of London, Singapore, Dubai, can now start moving into Gift City. So similarly, now if you think about the Sabang and the Great Nicobar link, again you're going to have the port transshipment and so many other facilities for repairs, for servicing, etc., for management of the entire, if there is any difficulty or war, how do you control that if you already have the infrastructure and if you have linkages with Indonesia? So it is moving very well. When I was, for example, the Director South, looking after the ASEAN and Indo-China and Indo-Pacific, we had excellent relations with Indonesia. I did travel there for official talks also. And always I found that, like some of the speakers have mentioned before me also,
Fair enough,
that
sir.
in the cultural layover, even if they
All
are
right, so
Muslim,
we've run
but
out
the
of time,
thinking is
but I appreciate your thoughts, sir. We've completely run out of time. Would like to thank everybody